back to February's Intermediate Saturday Sampler here at Close to Home in Southington, Connecticut. What you need to do is bring in your completed applique January's Dresden block beginning this Friday the 7th at 10 o'clock through Friday February 28th to receive this February kit free. So you bring in your January's block and you'll get your kit free. We have an email going out tonight. It begins our Super Bowl sale. It's running Thursday, February 6th, 7th, 8th, and Super Bowl Sunday, 12 to 4. Save 33% off almost everything with extra specials on our long arm quilting machines. So hopefully you'll be in the next couple of days, and we'll see you there. The block for February is going to be using the Creative Grids 4-inch log cabin trim tool. All right, so let's go take a look at the block and our cutting instructions. It is a 9-patch block made up of 8 of the log cabin squares, which are half white and half of our fabric colors for the month. And then the 9th block is the same ruler, except it's a square in a square in a square. Okay, so we're going to practice both of these, and I'm going to show you how to trim these. Probably not a whole lot of sewing tonight, but just to get you organized. It's really important to stay organized. So we have a lot of white in our kit. We have a very large rectangle of white. The first thing, or the most important thing to do, is to cut a strip off the end of it at 1 1/4. All these for the ruler are a minimum of 1 1/4 inch wide. So I didn't put that. Just note that all these strips are 1 1/4 inch wide. Okay, so a 1 1/4 inch wide, you're going to subcut it into 2 1.5 and 2 3-inch rectangles. From the remainder, just cut your strips 1 1/4. You're going to need 8, and it's all in the directions. Each one of these 1 1/4 inch strips, you're going to cut into 1 1/2, a 2 1/4, a 2 1/2, 3 1/4, 3 1/2, and 4 1/4 rectangles. And those are going to be our rounds as we go around each of our 8 log cabin blocks. These are for the center. These are for the 8 going around the outside. Okay, from there, we have a couple other colors in our center block, one being the light swirl. So if you were to take your rectangle and stand it up the long way up tall, 1 1/4, you're going to need 7 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1 1/4 inch strips. The first 4 strips get cut into 3-inch rectangles. This one and this one, you'll need a 4-inch rectangle by obviously 1 1/4. And then your last strip, you're going to need 2 2.5 inch by 1 1/4 rectangles. Okay. And then the last one, and again, these are for our center blocks, for the center square and a square. And then these are for our corners and our north, south, east, west blocks. And really the only other one to speak of, there's more, but those are in your cutting instructions, is the buttons. Again, we have the buttons going around our square and square, plus we have them in our log cabin block. So again, sit your rectangle that's in your kit up tall, and again, 7 little strips that are 1 1/4 inch by about 8 inch. The first, 3 1/4. The first 4 strips are going to be cut into 3 1/4 rectangles. The 5th one is a 5-inch by 1 1/4, another 5-inch by 1 1/4, and 2 3.5s by 1 1/4. And I know you're going to be into the 1 1/4 mantra, cutting all these, but please, when it comes time for your magenta, you're going to cut 9 1.5-inch squares, and those are our center blocks. So please make sure you cut a very accurate 1.5, because based on that square is how we're going to be trimming all our log cabin blocks. Okay, so let's get started with the ruler. I've never actually used the ruler before. It is a non-slip 4-inch log cabin trim tool. Again, it makes the log cabin we're doing today. It also makes courthouse steps, and it makes this half log cabin where the center is in the corners versus in the centers of the 4-inch blocks. And there is one more. It's the square in a square in a square, which we're square in a square in a square, which you can also make with this ruler. Okay, and they're all in the directions. I highly recommend a couple things. One, please use your best press on your kits before you cut them. Okay, so spray a little best press on, iron it in, get them nice and crisped up a little bit. And then the other thing is to watch the Creative Grids video on this ruler. So there is a barcode on the instructions, so you can just use your camera on your phone. It'll bring you right to the instructions. So watch that. There's not only helpful hints in how to do the log cabin using this ruler, but there are different patterns that you can put them together and create, a different look. Okay, that's for you. That's something you should do. Okay, so I've cut all my little pieces. The main thing is to stay organized, okay? Because these can get kind of messy. They're all very, very similar. They're only off by 1/4 inch in some cases. So my first round of the log cabin block is going to start with my 1.5-inch magenta. Okay, and then what I do is I'm going to add to either side, no, just to the top, sorry, my 1 1/4 by 1.5-inch white. And this is going to be my lineup all the time as I go down from block to block. So this one to this one, and then I'm going to put on, after I sew that, I'm going to take this one, and I'm going to keep turning it. So here I have it. I'm going to sew it, and then I'm going to turn it counterclockwise, and I'm going to add it, and I'm going to sew it, and I'm going to turn it counterclockwise, and I'm going to sew this one, and I'm going to, guess what, turn it counterclockwise until I get my entire strip. So this is an over-exaggerated beginning to this block. So we're going to take, once we get all these, and we're pressing to the outsides on all our seams, and when I press, I use the seam pointer, trimmer, creaser tool, and when you flip it back, I just give it a little bit of a crease. You can use either of these. Sometimes this one, I just kind of put my finger and give it a nice little crease, or I'll just use my finger, just kind of hold it in place and give it a pull. Once you have all 4 pieces around the magenta 1.5-inch square, then if you want, you can just give it a nice little press, but don't distort it, okay? Because it's really important that that stays at 1.5. Okay, so how do we trim this down to our first round? So we're going to take our ruler, and we're going to find, oh boy, here we go. We're going to find in the corners, we have in the black, round 1, in the white, round 2, and in the black, round 3. Now we're going to use these for both the log cabin and the square in a square. The only time you would use these three, which say half log cabin round 4, 5, and 6, is when you're doing this block here where the square is in the corner. All right? But we are doing just the regular log cabin. So round 1, round 2, round 3. We are on round 1. So we're going to place in the black square our magenta piece. So we're just going to line this up in the purple, or the magenta, sorry, and the lines that are going up the ruler are going to line up with our seam lines here, and the lines that are going left to right are going to line up with these lines. So I take round 1, which is the black square in the corner, says round 1. I place it right around the magenta, and I trim 2 sides. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. As we go, we're going to trim and sew. So I'm just going to place it in, make sure that the lines are going up my seams and across my seams, and I'm good to go. Just hold on to it. So they do have, Creative Grid does have grippers, you can see going around the ruler, plus they have it under the 1/4 inch seam allowance. But I like to kind of anchor my pinky down on the edge of it and hold kind of close to the edge to hold it down. And a nice push forward, and again in this direction, okay? Just one cut like that. So now that I have this corner, I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to turn it all the way around. I'm going to reline up my lines and my square, hold it with my pinky, give it a little bit of pressure down, straight down on the ruler. I don't want to push away, I want to push straight down. All right, we'll line that up, hold on to it, and again, trim it. So, we're going to do that 8 times. Okay? Then, now that we have that, we're going to continue to make round 2. And it's the same thing. I'm going to start with my first piece that I put up here, so that's to the side. I'm going to add the white. Sew it, turn it counterclockwise. Add the next white. Sew it, turn it counterclockwise. Add the first color, which is button. Turn it counterclockwise, and then the blue. Okay, so sew, 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 sew. Now that we have those sewn, again, every time I put one on, I give it a little bit of a finger crease so that I can add the next piece. So let's go to our cutter. I'm going to find round 2 on the mat, right here where it says round 2. It's white, just a little white square. I'm going to place that around my magenta center, lining up the lines with the previous rows, holding it, and then we're going to trim this one and this one. Turn it, line it up again, round 2, nice and square. It's going up, over, up, over, up, over, just like that, following all the lines around my magenta square. And then we have one more row real fast. So that's that one. We're going to take it again, starting with the little one, the very first one we did. We're going to put it to the side and add our first round 3 white. Sew that, crease it. Add the next one. Sew it, crease it. And then we have our floral, and then lastly our dots. Okay, once these are sewn, we're going to give it a good press, which I've done here, and we're going to cut for round 3. And we're going to bring it over. This time round 3 is in the black center of our ruler. And again, the lines are coming down the seams everywhere around the magenta and down the seams. So once that's all lined up, just hold it straight down, hold that ruler, and we're going to cut this way and this way. And today I have my rotating mat, so I'm just going to clear this away and give this a little spin. Hold it and cut it again. Okay, so you should have 8 of these when you're done. The last one, kind of quick. What I want to explain is it's a little bit different when I'm making a square and a square. I'm going to start with the 2 whites at the top and bottom. So for instance, if I had these, I would place them on both the top and the bottom. Sew those, press outwards, out. And then get the next white ones, sew them on, and I have my first round. Same thing, we're going to trim it on round 1. So I'm going to find round 1, place it, trim it, turn it, and trim it. Don't forget to keep trimming after all the rounds are done. Once that one's done, I'm going to add top and bottom with the light swirl, the small one. Then come back with the larger one. Press it, and we're going to go back to round 2. So we're just going to kind of keep following, putting our ruler in these lines around, following the seam lines. I have a nice black seam line going through here, up these sides, so I know it's nice and square. Again, trim, trim, round 2, turn my mat around, or just easily turn your block around, line it up again, round 2. Okay, it's the white one. It's hard to see. It's hard to see in the camera, sorry. But you know, every time, you'll know if you're right, because every time you cut, it's about 1/4 of an inch. So if you're on the wrong one and you're cutting more than 1/4 of an inch, look at it one more time and put it in the right location. And then the last one's the same thing. We start with the 2 short ones, we add the 2 short buttons, top and bottom, and then the sides, and trim that round 3. It's a lot. It's a lot of pieces. But I think it makes a really cute block. And feel free, I mean, I turn them, they're basically half square triangles, sort of. So they really do make a lot of different blocks when you're done. If you want to turn these in different directions, by all means, be my guest. But this is the block for February, and it really does go fairly quickly. You're just going to sew your 3 rows together and then sew them into a block. And don't forget, if you haven't started your borders, you can go ahead and start your borders anytime and start putting those on. You can make your borders for the whole year. These are paper pieced for those that haven't started yet. And I hope you continue and come in. Take advantage of our perfect Super Bowl sale this weekend, starting tomorrow. That's Friday the 7th, no, starting, Thursday the 6th. The 7th, Friday, you can start picking up your block and your rulers, and then it's also on Saturday and Sunday. Sunday 12 to 4. So I hope to see you. Thanks for watching.